learning any new relationship advice. Not at all. But welcome to Love Rewired. I come from a belief system and a training that is our nervous system has imprinted on it a pattern, all of our patterns, right? Combined, our nervous system is also dealing with our emotional, our mental, our subconscious, our conscious mind. And those patterns continue in our system. So no one is here because they're broken, but they do want to find a new way to approach relationships or perhaps how they're showing up. And that's why everyone is here, to learn something new. With that being said, I always like to start with bringing us fully here in our bodies into the room. So wherever you are, now if you're driving, please don't do this, but I do want to breathe together for a moment. So I will time it. I'm going to ask you to inhale, hold, and then exhale. So let's do this really quickly. We're going to take 3 deep breaths together. Let's inhale for 4 seconds. Hold it for 6. Exhale for 7. One more time. Inhale for 4. Hold for 6. Exhale for 7. Last time together. Inhale for 4. Hold it for 6. Exhale for 7. Just notice for a moment. Notice your jaw, your shoulders. Welcome yourself fully here. Thank you. Great. Put in the chat here, if you're here to be honest and be willing to be honest with yourself tonight as you sit through this class. Everyone in the chat, if you're truly here and present to have some shift, put yes. Yes or here in the chat. Yes. All right. Good to see some. Everyone else? Yeah. Thank you. Great. So I'm going to start with a question. Are you willing to spend another year repeating the same pattern in love? Because that's what happens to many high-functioning, high-achieving, successful women. Because they know better, so they tend to effort. They end up having similar emotional patterns arrive in their life, right? But they know it here in their mind. They know something's off, or they know they want to have a different experience in their relationship, and they kind of like, what's going on? That's what I want to be able to answer for you tonight. So whatever your answer was, I assume most people are here because they're not willing to spend another year in their life doing this, right? So I want to quickly just introduce myself. My name is Claudine Chiarmonte. I'm a psychotherapist, a relationship coach. I've been doing this work for about 32 years now. Recent breath worker, hypnotherapist, and I love to do retreats when I have the opportunity. But I also know this journey well. So I will tell you, you'll learn a little bit about me on the next slide. There was something I needed to learn about what was showing up in my life. And that had me really create the framework that I will be teaching tonight, which is the best framework, right? Because something had to give in my life. And I'll share it from this place. I knew things like heartbreak. I am a recovering, avoidant attachment style person. I am a woman of recovery around perfectionism and people pleasing because I understood the pain of the pattern of over-giving and over-functioning so that I could be loved, right? And because it kept happening, I knew something else was up because, right, I'm a therapist. I know this stuff. I've been doing this stuff. It's like, something had to shift, but I had to honor this first because all of those things I just listed, the people pleaser and the perfectionist, they were my survival strategies. They were not my identity. It is not who I am, though I probably have introduced myself as, hi, I'm Claudine, I'm a people pleaser. It was how I survived what I survived at one time. And most of us learn how to survive through disconnection. And for me, the disconnection was most notable in my body. I was a head separate from a body. I had an extraordinary thinking mind, never connected. This slide, most people go, oh my God, look at this change in her. But the change isn't really about weight. It's about self-trust. It was about coming home. It was about embracing all of me. And it wasn't just this magnificent mind I had, but connecting and trusting this body. Because until I did, I stayed in the same relationships, in the careers of overgiving, the hours that were endless, coming home exhausted. Peace out on the weekends because I was drained. I was resentful because of the effort I had to put in at home. It's like, what the hell? I project manage and I run, a business during the day and I got to come home and do this here. Yeah, but that's the shift. This is where I became safe, not in the controlling, not in the micromanaging, but I came here to become secure, not where I was looking outside myself any longer. It was that I can do that here. It was a nervous system change. Just so you know, when I lost the weight, I was not actually healthier. My body number was different, but my emotional pattern was the same. That was an eye-opener because I always had thought my unhappiness or my sadness was because I was numbing everything with food. And that once I got rid of the weight, everything would change. It didn't change. I still had work to do. I still definitely had work to do. So in the chat, one word that describes how you currently feel about your love life. One word about how you feel about your love life. Anybody? Hurt. Ooh. Okay. Thank you, Christine. Anxious. Any other words? What people are feeling about their love life right now. One word. You should think about it because you're here for a reason. Because there's a big difference when our nervous system learns something here and learns something from knowing because we can recreate it. So happy. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Hal. Hal's happy. Anybody else? Anyone else want to put anything into the chat? Hurt and anxious. We're going to go with that tonight. I do see we have more participants on. So this is what I want to just slow us down for a moment and say, for you to get the best value out of this, I hope you interact with me. If you want to come and talk on screen, if there's something I say that you're like, oh, whoa, I don't understand that, or I want to talk to her more about that, raise your hand. Hal will bring you into the room. You and I get to have a chat, talk about whatever you want. I will often ask you to put something in chat just to engage where you are so that you stay present. You decided to put your time here tonight. I want you to get the value out of it because this could be a class that changes something in your life. Right? So the problem, we're going to talk about this thing called patterns tonight. Often we're going to talk about what the real issue is. Most people want to come to coaching and counseling and go, it's his fault, her fault, it's the circumstance fault, it's their personality. So we want to blame. We want to go out there. And just for a moment, I want you to think about, are you doing something over and over? I know I had a pattern of picking the emotionally unavailable partner. Somewhere in me, right, I knew that. That was very familiar to me, extremely familiar to me. So what we're really talking about here tonight is that pattern. If we think about a record, we don't have them anymore, right? There's a groove in there. I often explain it to my clients is I know how to make a right-hand turn. That's it. I keep attracting people who I go right-hand turn. We're talking about that pattern and interrupting it. We're talking about changing it. Okay? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But first, we have to get honest about the pattern. What are we in? What are you in? What do you notice you attract? Right? So here we got a poll one. But perhaps we could just take a look at what is the pattern you notice is happening in your life. I told you mine is I attract an emotionally unavailable partner. So on your screen right now, just let's see what everyone's picking. I silence my needs to keep the peace, overfunction and resent. I attract emotionally unavailable people. I'm fearful of being too much when I speak up. And I don't know what I actually need in love. Right? Let's give that a few more moments. We have more people in here. Can you see what they are, right? These are your patterns. There's nothing bad and wrong here. Something has occurred that is the groove or the turn that you make in your life. And so we're going to take a look at these tonight. I'm going to end the poll. I want to share the results. I'm hoping everyone can see them on their screen. Right? So we have a little everything. So we don't have anybody here that their main pattern is attracting unemotionally available partners. Good thing you got me here tonight. I could speak into that. But right when we talk about patterns, you may want to come off screen and talk or come on camera and talk about the overfunctioning, the too much, the I don't actually know what I need in love. And that's real, right? And that comes from an earlier experience. So why do intelligent women and men stay in love? Most of us continue to effort. We end up giving more, doing more, providing more. There's something about it, right? The harder I do, then I'll communicate better. If I just tried harder, right? How many of you know this? That you know this intellectually, but you still feel pulled to the same dynamic. Damn it, I know. If I just don't go in there and use a certain tone, it'll change everything. We go in there and we use the tone. Because there's a pattern, we're triggered. There's something that's activated in us and we go, and we don't soften up. We end up coming in there with the punch, with our tone, the way we talk, what we end up doing. So I often do this. I'm just going to show this and see if you can see it on my screen. I ask people, well, what are you willing to do? I'll do anything. I'll do anything. You can't see me, but my hand's here, my back's there. I'll just keep contorting my body to make it work. That's why we get stuck, because we continue to do more as if that will shift the pattern. And there's somewhere we've got to have to be more to have that happen. And I'll show you later tonight how we rewire clients in my program called The Alchemy of Love. This is an important part tonight. Right? Most of us do feel what it's like to have that. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody wants to come off screen, just raise your hand like Hal just said. But I want you to understand you're not broken. Part of this is very biological. Right? The record player that's getting made or the record that's getting moved is really, we're triggered and activated by this little thing called our amygdala. Right in the back of our head. When we're nervous, excited, passionate, angry, anxious, it moves. And the more anxious we are, it moves more. And that's when we go to these survival skills. These strategies to help us feel safe. So, Ray, you learn these at a really, really young age. You've probably all heard trauma responses like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I'm assuming everyone has heard them. Put in the chat if you know your trauma response. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Right? Fight is let's go. I get activated and I go right into it. Flight is I'm out of here. I got to check out. I'll go get high. I'll go for a run. It looks good. I walk out the door. I need air. I need space. right? Freeze is I become a turtle. I lose my speech. It looks like I'm depressed. And fawning is really people pleasing. It's we over accommodate. None of these are about being broken. These were things that kept us safe at a young age. Thank you for everyone for sharing. Great. And we then have these other things that we do that also are strategies. I shared mine before, people pleasing and perfectionism. We have overgiving and over efforting, high achieving, emotional withdrawal, shutdowns, projection, control. All of these are adaptation, survival skills. Just like, how can I bring safety back? If I think you're going to leave me, then I'll overgive. If I think I'm going to be abandoned, then I'll over effort to keep you close. Now, that's an early thing. Even imposter syndrome, all of these, they're not flaws in any of us. They're protective factors. Right? So, nothing is repeating because we're broken. Right? They repeat because they're familiar. So let me explain a little about that. It felt familiar and that felt safe. I'm going to give you an example from real life. I have a particular friend, best friend actually, her boyfriend scares me. And I'm a damn high functioning woman, but there's something about how he approaches. It's like a wall. It's not a lot of emotionality, not right. He can be nasty, never apologizing. It's a comfortable man for me to be around. I'm aware of that. And there's still times, even though I know it here, I am safe. I see myself, can I get you something? Would you like something? It's not genuine. I'm trying to keep what I consider dangerous in my control. Like, oh, I know where he is because I'm taken care of. But, right, it's familiar because that's the strategy I used in my childhood. It's the strategy I needed when I was in my family, right? So think about this for a moment. What felt familiar was safe at one time. So if love was inconsistent, my body learned anxiousness. And then we call that the anxious attachment style. If I was around a parent who was there one moment and loving and then gone, that inconsistency registers in my body. Like I had mommy and then I don't have mommy. Mommy's preoccupied, but then she's loving. So that creates anxiety in us, anxious attachment style, right? The other would be if I have a parent who's unavailable, a caregiver who's unavailable, then I learn distance. We call that the avoidant attachment style, right? Where then when I'm feeling stress, if I sense there's anything distant going on here, I'm going to step back. I'm going to move away, right? If I have chaos, if love is chaotic to me, my body learns confusion. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to expect. That's the disorganized attachment style, right? Of course, we're always moving towards secure, but there's anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So think about it. We're learning really early on. So adults may want healthy love. We use these words, secure love. We see that all over the internet. Yet, the nervous system chases what's familiar. So I said earlier, I attract emotionally unavailable partners because my system learned inconsistency. So when someone is inconsistent with me, they're there, they're not there, they're there, that feels like home. Here and here, I know when I speak to a friend and I am not under the drug of love, I get it. But that's not what happens when we meet somebody. We don't sit here, the body takes over. We say things like, oh my God, it's like being at home. I found the one. It feels so natural. It feels so comfortable. You're feeling familiarity. Just wanted to say that. Right. Does anyone recognize these dynamics? Because again, this is what brought me to creating the best method in the alchemy of love, is like to really look at these patterns. We're going to have to interrupt them and write a different way. If we're going this way all the time, we've got to start making different turns. And that's what we're going to do tonight here, is recognizing that. I had read this article, and I'm just going to say I found it fascinating that this is one of many articles, by the way. I just picked one because I read Forbes, is that we're seeing more and more women who are getting successful are reporting less and less relationship satisfaction, or a weakening of relationships. And at first I was like, really? Why? Because there is the efforting that a woman may be very successful in her career. So externally, she's driving and she's able to make these decisions and do what she needs to do, right? But the issue really becomes the power and performance in the emotional labor does not work in emotional intimacy at home. So the very things that create success in the workplace actually are not effective in a relationship. It's very challenging for women who are driving all day, making decisions, directing, delegating, and then shifting into a softening and receptive. Most women will say, it's like having two jobs, or I have 5 kids, even though one of them is actually a spouse or a partner, and they have 4 kids biologically, right? So we notice a theme coming up for women. As they ask themselves to reach new levels, there are some places where they're not, right? So there is an internal cost when a woman is driving by being over-responsible, hyper-independent, emotionally repressed in her workplace, and then needs to go home. Does anyone recognize that in themselves? Is anyone experiencing this? Sometimes I work a certain way and that way doesn't work at home. I'm just curious if anybody, and they can put it in the chat. Yes, I can relate. Anyone relate to that? Because we're seeing it more and more. We're also seeing something we call silver divorce, where more and more women are leaving their marriages late in life, right? So I've used this word, the problem, a few times. Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate your responsiveness. So we see a lot on mindset. And it's one of my other, I will say one of my other belief systems is mindset is important. Our thoughts do create our reality. That then creates our behavior. We know that there is a direct correlation between feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. So if we're going to go in and just change the thoughts, we're missing the emotion. The emotion is actually not just, it's actually in our nervous system, right? We get a sensation and we go, I feel this tightness, like sad. I feel sad. We're missing some of it. So it's not that the mindset part isn't going to change the emotional and the nervous system. It will change our thoughts and actions. But over time, the pattern comes right back up. So there is a need for a different level of rewiring. And that's what I'd love to get into a little tonight. And this is about new tools, regulation. I don't know if anyone's heard the word regulation practices, but it's also repetition. I don't know about you. I'm 58. You know how long I've been doing this? How long I've been on that record? It isn't like overnight, like, oh, Claudine, start picking people who are emotionally available and it's going to happen. It's not. I have to ground myself, do some practices, even when I'm on a date, even when I'm with a beloved, I have to be aware of what's happening on the side of me. Otherwise, I also can slip into a pattern if I get triggered. So it is the attention to it that I think is important. So the promise this evening, and there is a promise for your effort, your time being here, is that you're going to begin to rewire your nervous system. That is something I want you to experience so you don't repeat the pattern and you can start to move towards secure love. So that's what we're going to do here. And I'm going to teach you my method. That's where we're going to go, and you're going to experience some of this. So the best method. I came up with this not because I just like the words. Felt like this is really what the embodiment of being in a relationship is. And that's where it came from. Yes, some of it is my own piece, but they all impact a new experience inside our body, our mind, our emotional body, our intellectual body, our spiritual body. So the beloved means you belong to yourself first. Rumi would say, like, if you're going to go seek your beloved, then right, you are the beloved. So it's the embodiment that you love yourself first, or as people like to say, put on the oxygen mask first. You belong. It's a key word there. You belong to yourself first. So there is no self-abandonment. Repress to express. This is really about when we're in our truth, that we are sharing that we're not quieting our voice, because love does not require us to not be in our truth. Secure is about where the body feels safe when it's in intimacy. So, right, if I'm moving from, as I said before, disorganized, anxious, or avoidant attachment, I'm moving into secure, is that I am trusting in this body, that I feel safe here, that I don't need someone out there to create safety. I can create that here. And trusting, of course, means I stay open without abandoning myself. I go from triggered to trusting, that I recognize doesn't mean I'm never going to get triggered, hear me, but that I can still stay open and know I can repair from that trigger. I can come back to myself. Great. So I want to put a poll up. What word in the best model, beloved, express, secure, trusting, feels the least accessible to you? Like I can't even get that. Thank you, Pam, before also for sharing. I can't even relate to that experience of belonging to myself first, or expressing my truth without repressing it, or I can feel safe and secure here, or that I could trust myself enough to not abandon myself, not to shrink. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone putting in. If there's anybody else that'd like to, right? Feeling the beloved, expressing truth without fear, feeling secure, emotionally safe in relationships, trusting others and myself, or all the above. It's great. Yeah. Right. So notice everyone has their own place that they recognize, oh, maybe I can lean in here a little. So as I move through them, let's see what comes up for you as we move through these. So, lonely to beloved. I had a client today in California, actually, a coaching client. And he looked at me and he went, oh my God, I've been avoiding feeling lonely. And most of us do. It's a core experience. And it is ridiculously uncomfortable. Can everyone else, could you put an agree in the chat that feeling lonely is really uncomfortable? You could call it painful. We can call it sad. It is a lot on our system. Most of us will find some way of checking out. Thank you, Christina, Isa. Most of us will find somewhere, because we don't feel like we belong anywhere. When we don't sense a belonging to ourselves or something beyond ourselves, it's like, then what have I got? So this lonely part, I mean, most people move through life feeling unseen, untouched, unchosen. That's how we interpret lonely. And that, that's a deep wound. And it's not loneliness that others can fill up. Right? That's what this guy got today. He's like, oh my gosh, I keep going and chasing, that was the word he used, relationships that take this away. So our session was on what do we need? What would it feel like to sit with it? Most emotions, I know they say 90 seconds, but sometimes they stay longer for that. So we got to be prepared that an emotion may stay longer because we're attached to it, or we're resisting it. Like, I don't want to feel lonely. Guess what? The longer we do that, lonely stays with us longer. So moving through that piece, to be the beloved, you need to know that you're worthy without performing, without proving, without pleasing. That's what we're talking about here. So let's do a little activity, right? Because we talked about, we're going to rewire tonight. I'm hoping that everyone, thank you, Elizabeth, also. So wherever you are, if you're driving, please do not do this. Just want to invite you to put your hand on your heart. If you're comfortable, to close your eyes. I encourage you to slow down our breath. So let's do some inhales and exhales. Inhale. Exhale with some sound. Ah. Let's inhale again. We do that because when our nervous system slows down, we become fully present. So from this place, with your eyes closed, I want you to whisper to yourself, I belong to myself first. I belong to myself first. Just sit in that for a moment. I belong to myself first. We define belonging. It starts with ourselves. I don't know what that was like for you, but saying it to myself, I could feel this quiet, soft vibration come through my chest and my body when we slow down enough to meet ourselves. There is weeks in my program, Alchemy of Love, where we work on the experience of belonging, because it's not a here thing. It's a full body experience, belonging. Yeah. Thank you. Move you through these. Expressed. I don't know about you, but I am, as Hal has worked with me for some months now, we're both friends as well as co-breath workers. I've come from a life of a very repressed voice, throat chakra. I have just applied for my TED Talk. I just applied for the International Coaching Federation's a conference in Washington, D.C. This is my year of expression. Even being here with you and the other classes that I've had the gift, and even being in my program, Alchemy of Love with others, is allowing my voice to be heard now. As often as one of the things that we do, is particularly as women, I'm not saying men don't, is we tend to quiet up. My culture, we were told to be quiet. Kids should be seen and not heard. We were not asked our opinion. We were not surveyed to what we wanted. So this is a very old place, right? And we then start to have these ideas like, right, if I speak, will I get what I want? But yet successful women in leadership roles are always being asked to articulate themselves as part of our leadership. So I have presented in Washington, D.C., I would probably say nationally and in the state of New Jersey, which I represented as a assistant commissioner, I probably have easily spoken over 100 conferences. But yet, speaking my voice and my truth in my relationships was not something I did. I thought mind reading, even though I'm a therapist, was actually going to happen. Like, they should love me. They should know. They should have been watching my patterns. They should see what I pick. They should know what I like. No, 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 no. Being in secure love with ourselves and with another means that it requires, it's not optional. We get to say, even if we say, I notice I'm feeling a little nervous about this. I need to let you know I actually don't like eating pizza, and I notice we keep going there every week. We've got to be honest. We can't just accommodate. So, right, that's what's going to happen, because we often hear, and I know I do, I don't know if you, is resentment. Does anyone here experience resentment? Put it in the chat. I can't tell you, the majority of my clients will say, I have such resentment. And as resentment erodes a relationship, unexpressed resentments erodes a relationship. And most times it is based on unexpressed expectations. I thought you should know. I did that. I did that for a long time. And man, was I resentful. And my partners were like, I don't even get it. You never told me. And yet I did. I probably told them once. But that's not what it's about. It's I've got to be honest with me. Because if I want my needs taken care of, if I want to be an active part, secure love really does. And we are going to spend lots of time in the containers that I create to be able to speak our truth. Because that's an important part of being in a supportive container like Alchemy of Love. We've got to practice this skill. I have clients that are taking voice activation, that are, having to speak to themselves in front of the mirror. It is a muscle that has kind of gone limp for some of us. So I want to also do a little practice thing for a moment, if you can. Again, if you're driving, you can do this one. But if you're at home or somewhere, just want to keep bringing you back to your body. I have my hands on my thighs. I'm sitting, as you can see, in my desk. I want you to think about, if you have a journal or a piece of paper in front of you, if not, that's fine. Think about something you never dared to say out loud in either your current relationship or your past relationship. Something you didn't dare to say out loud in your relationship, current or past. It's coming to you. Let it come to you. Something, maybe one sentence that you never dared say in your current or past relationship. Elizabeth just put it right out there. You dig out there before I did. Thank you, Elizabeth. If anyone wants to even come and raise their hand, and Hal will bring you in, or if you want to unmute yourself and say it out loud. But I want to encourage you to also say it grounded. So my hand is on my solar plex, which is right below my belly button. Right? And I really always wanted to ask for more touch. Just touch me. I love that Elizabeth wrote, I hate you. I'd like to encourage you, if you can and you're in a place, to say it out loud right now. Elizabeth, wherever you are, and it's okay for you to say it, say, I hate you. Just wanted to be touched more. That's my truth that I never said. If anyone wants to share, again, raise your hand. Let's hear you. I want to hear you. I want you to hear you. And you have 12 witnesses right now. So I'd love to hear your voice if anyone wants to come off. So that's the important part. And that's the work we do in Alchemy of Love. We've got to be able to say it without the fear of loss. Because most of us fear the loss of love if we really said our truth. Right? Intimacy, intimacy. But that is what love is about. It's the vulnerability. It's the exposure. All of our survival skills cover us up. They mask us up with things like people pleaser, overachiever, right? It's not who we are. It's how we survived. So anyone, again, wants to, right? So secure people, express people, this is an important part for them, to speak your truth. I really want to encourage that. If there's any practice tonight, any of these, this is one that I would encourage women to do in the mirror. Right? And sometimes it's not about what we need to say so boldly, and yes, it may. Sometimes it also needs to be said softly. So mine probably wouldn't be as bold as I said it. There's a softening, there's a vulnerability for me to say, Please touch me. Because the body of mine that was 380 pounds refused to be touched. There was too much shame. I feel so bad for my ex. There was nothing they can do because it was my burden that became their burden and our relationship's burden. I was too ashamed to have their hands on me. Right? So different now that I'm like, please touch. So notice your practice may be in the softening or it may be in the power of what you need to say. It's not always about boldness. Sometimes vulnerability is a quieter voice. From anxious to secure. So this is really talking about safety. Right? Because if I can feel safe in intimacy, then everything we just talked about, the masks, they go off. What I've noticed in my work is that most of us are looking for someone else to make us safe. Now, in a relationship, we get to have someone who co-creates safety with us. And if we're marrying or dating men, then men do carry a responsibility to create safety. But we both do. Both partners do. Right? Masculine carries a little bit more of the consistency, the predictability, the reliability. I like to call it inner mountain. Maybe Hal, you have a different word for it, but I'm sitting on top of a mountain. So for me, the mountains represent masculinity because they hold. This is where attachment gets embodied. So we can say we're all moving to secure love, because that's what we're doing, but it's a concept. How do I know when I arrive at secure love? I can speak my truth. I could be in a relationship without losing myself. I can rebuild trust with myself. And I can know where safety is. And I can talk about it when it's not there. Like, wow, when we were just yelling at each other, I didn't feel safe in those moments. I noticed that. I felt like a 5-year-old kid again. It's not putting it on our partner. It's recognizing when our system is in it and when it's not in it. So I'm going to ask for a moment if you know where safety is in your body. Right? You're sitting, I assume. What's the shape of safety for you? I notice when I'm in, my shoulders are more slouched and inward towards the screen. I tend to be more protecting. When I'm this and my shoulders are relaxed and back, I tend to be safe. I can lead and I can move in the world. So notice where yours is, right? Hear me, a secure nervous system doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It just means that fear doesn't run you and the relationship. That we have skills, that we can tolerate closeness without panic, that we can tolerate distance from somebody without collapsing, that we could see, oh my gosh, they do need space. They're dysregulated, they're triggered. They need some time to come back together. Okay. It's not gonna, oh my God, they're leaving me. That moves us back to anxious again, right? That I trust I can repair conflict. I can repair conflict. It is a process, repair. Most of us weren't modeled this. Repair is ownership, accountability, acknowledgement, and a commitment to change behavior. It's not, I'm sorry. It's not like, hey, I apologize for that a few weeks ago. You just don't remember. No. We repair. We each take a turn and recognize what was occurring in this moment. We're present to each other. There's a whole other training on repair. Repair is probably, to me, the most critical skill of a long-term relationship. We need it because inherently we're going to be in conflict and we get to repair from that. Right? So I will say learning about that is one of them. I'm wondering if you could put up the attachment style poll right now. So I've talked a little bit about the attachment styles as we've moved through this evening. I'm curious if anyone knows their style, and if you don't, right, there's anxious, avoidant, disorganized. In the chat, Hal will also put a link to a free quiz if you want to learn more about yours, right? I would encourage, now hear me. Social media has made these like they're a diagnosis that don't change. It changes. It's only a way that we are always going to go back to when we're in default, when we're under stress. I go back to my avoidant. Not always, right? So if you don't know, please go take the quiz, right? It's your default setting. You're going to get anxious when there's conflict or stress in a relationship. It doesn't mean you stay there. It means you can still move back to secure. You may need to ground yourself. You may need to speak a truth. You may need to ask for a need to be met. You may need to do something I call regulation and co-regulation. I figure I should explain that at one point, but for right now, right? So everyone has a little different. I will end the poll to show you everyone's a little different. All of us are moving towards secure. That's where we're all moving towards. And that is the most powerful shift clients say in their feedback after attending the Alchemy of Love, is that they recognize that feeling secure is always available to them. It's the tools of how do I get here? Because I slip back to this. Remember, this is wired. So for me, when I notice, there's conflict, I pull away. That's what I do. Just recognizing that. Okay. So these are where everyone's results were. Thank you. And again, feel free to take the quiz if you'd like. If anyone has questions, they don't want to come up. I'm talking so much. I'd love to hear from you. You're here tonight. Utilize this time. It's always available. I want you to know that you're always invited to be in co-collaboration. It makes it more interesting for everyone and for yourself. Love to have you here. So trusting is the move from trigger to open. So when I said that earlier, it's not like we're naive. It's not like we're not affected. It's just that we don't want to abandon ourselves. We want to recognize there's something happening. My pattern would have me perform or do a survival pattern to get back to good favor or some sense of familiarity and comfort. We're not talking about that. So I want to ask you, think about a moment, recent moment that you were triggered. Now, the word triggered could be activated, annoyed, pissed, whatever word represents, but think about a recent moment that triggered you. If you have it in mind, now it could be small, it could be large, whatever it is. And ask yourself this question. What was I trying to protect in that moment? What was I trying to protect in that moment? A lie, alienation? So the alienation. So you were protecting that sense of belonging. Hear me, this is not blame and fault, but our trigger is usually means that we're going to bring back one of our survival skills. Something has happened that the alarm system in the nervous system, it's automatic. Red bells went off when that lie came out, Elizabeth. And something occurred in your system. It was a warning sign. This happens like that. You don't sit around and go, I think I'm going to get pissed in a minute, right? Lots of us will say, oh my God, that person goes 0 to 60 and it's like this, or 0 to 100. They fly off the handle. Right? A really wise coach of mine once said, the more intense the trigger or the reactivity in the moment, the older the wound. Right? Most times our triggers are something that's happened to us before. And the more it's happened, and especially if it's happened in our childhood. Right? So Elizabeth, I'd be curious. Doesn't mean it's true, but if you got really reactive on the lie, was there that inconsistency of truth in your childhood? So for me, as I shared earlier, inconsistency is familiar to me. I react to it. I don't sit around and plot it. But when I do, and when I had to slow down, I was like, oh my God, I had the most inconsistent father. I loved the man. Just lost him a year ago. But he'd show up 2-3 hours late for a visit. He'd be all into like, how's school, how you doing? And then we'd go another visit, would hardly talk to us. So, right, when someone's inconsistent, it triggers me deeply. Yes, does not mean that there's not something here in my adult life I've got to attend to, but I probably have to attend to something in my childhood too, because the pattern got opened up then. I don't want to abandon either my adult self or my child. So that's what we're really talking about here, is how do I do that? Because that protective part is not the enemy. So if you fly off the handle, it harms the other person. It's informational for us. It's like, oh, you're out reactivity because this is a large, big ouchie. So we've got to rewire that. We've got to do some practices. Okay. I want to say this before I go on. And again, anyone wants to come off mute. I use the word regulation often, and I just recognize you may not know what I mean by that. So if we think about, something being dysregulated, frantic, it's how do we come back to homeostasis? How do we get this amygdala that has got hijacked, it's moving, to come back to stillness, or at least less movement? We call those practices regulation practices. Call them other things, right? We have our own individual ones. Some of the most powerful things are humming. They're connected to the vagal nerve right here, right? Two people, co-regulation, walking together. They start separately, and then all of a sudden, your legs start moving together. So this is important to have a toolbox. How am I going to stop reacting when I get triggered? For somatics nowadays, where we have the shake and the wipe, and we have the helicopter arms, but it's practice, it's intention to bring back something to our nervous system, or to release something our nervous system is holding on to. Yeah. So I think we've talked about why women stay in relationships longer than they need to. They're not broken. It's really about this normalization of survival strategies, trauma strategies. I think of, right, instead of healing, a lot of us will do the intellectual work. We'll listen to podcasts. I do. Read books. I do. Right? That helps here. It helps us analyze and see it. So I spent a lot of years in psychotherapy. I understood my patterns, but it didn't break the pattern. So I had intelligence about my pattern, but I couldn't get out of the overanalyzing. Some people come to our sessions that are overthinkers. These are just signs. Like if someone comes to me and they're, I'm stuck in overthinking, I'm looping about this, I'm ruminating. It usually tells me there's something's overwhelmed in their system, and they go to their brain and try to figure it out. We can't think our way out of the problem. Einstein is the one who told us this. The same thinking that got us into it cannot get us out of it. But that's where we go, especially a woman who is very effective in their business life. They're going to go there. It has served them well. It won't work, right? If we stay in just the vulnerability, the independence versus the vulnerability, right? It feels better to say, like, I can't count on anybody. Because the moment I say I need, are you able to It's vulnerable. I've now put my stuff out there. So it's not about trying harder. It's not about learning better communication. They're all very helpful. That won't shift the long-term piece here. Has anyone ever felt that, like, know exactly what is happening intellectually, but you still can't pull yourself out of a relationship dynamic? I mean, anyone? Is there a yes here that can say, I've seen this pattern, and I still can't get myself out of it? Right? We're great analyzers. We're great thinkers. But thinkers don't make change. There's nobody? Do I still have everyone here? Christina and DJ and Elizabeth, Lisa, Joanne, Hal, Steph? Right? Yeah. It's the vulnerability. And that's what I want to say. So I'll show you, I'll speak into some of the other things that we do in the alchemy of love in a moment. I do want to talk about some of the people I've had the gift of working with. And I'm like, wow, Dawn. It's not Dawn. I'm missing something here in my own notes. I apologize for 1 second here. It's really interesting. Maybe I did. Well, in that case, I know this person really well, so I will speak to her from my heart because that's how I know her best. Let's talk about Jade. Jade is an extraordinary career coach. When I met her, high conflict in her marriage, a woman of trauma history, and extensive rejection. So for her, she always felt like she had to try to be an easy woman to love. And she still felt like she was too much. If we just focus on what she said to me, you could see the pattern right there. And how many people can relate that they have to earn love? They've got to be something different. And if they're not, then they're too much. Either they're told to that. She was told that. Told that a lot, right? Her needs were most times glossed over. You're too sensitive. You're too needy. You're too much. So when she got into a marriage, she wanted intimacy, but was afraid to ask for anything. So she really started to shrink. She didn't ask for her needs. She didn't want to be too much anymore. So after we started to work together, there was an identity shift for her. Like when she chose from self-worth and not fear, that changed everything in her marriage. She recognized that she had the right to ask. She had the right to need. She had the right to create and co-create. It was a very different conversation. It wasn't, you don't ever. I can't believe, to her husband, it was like, let's go. I want to do this together. I need more time. I need a date night. I need us to find a babysitter for the kids. Because she can own that. Her voice wasn't too much. It was that her mom wasn't capable of meeting her needs, and she thought that's what everybody was going to say about her. So I don't know if anyone here has ever shrunk their voice or their needs to be loved. I know I have, and that's what people pleasers do. They give when they don't always have a full cup. They shrink. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. Very successful woman. And one of the things she'll say is, God, I feel so much calmer now. We don't even see each other that often any longer. I always do love when I get to see her, but our sessions are now very, very spread apart. And I'm always happy to get an update about where she or her children are. Dawn, Hal knows I have a deep love for this woman. I've known Dawn through both breathwork and coaching. And when I met her, she was a CFO for a nonprofit, child welfare nonprofit, and she had 50 plus things on her wall, certifications, certificates, degrees. And it was like the overachieving, this overdoing, but she hated conflict. She hated conflict so much that she was willing to disappear in her marriage. She was willing to not even risk a conflict, not even a conversation. She paid everything. She paid everything. And let me just say, her husband is very successful too. It wasn't a financial thing for her. It was a self-worth. And she was too afraid that if she asked for a bill, that there would be conflict or her need wouldn't be met. The only thing her husband paid for was a phone bill. She paid for everything. For everything. Yeah. Yes. So I do love this woman, but there is a place where she had to practice regulation and expression, because this is somebody who did not have her voice. She did not believe in the power of her voice. So she pandered. She people pleased. She overgave. She over-efforted. She resented deeply. And when we started to have safety in our body, start to practice, when I tell you tiny conversations, it was a buildup. This is how people like, I don't trust myself. Well, this is how we do it. We say, I'm going to have one conversation, one sentence. We have another one, and we have another one. And Dawn met herself in those places, very uncomfortable places, because otherwise she was dying, literally died from autoimmune disease. They brought her back. But right, that's how much she self-sacrificed. And so when she could claim her worth, claim her voice, there was no more of that. Right? How many of us can relate to protecting our heart versus opening it? She could never tell Chris her needs. And that ultimately really did have her leave her marriage. Changed her life completely. She's now a photographer and a health coach. And yes, she's still an accountant, the only female accountant of her class at SUNY Stony Brook. When she graduated, told to leave her program, but she stood in her power. So think about that. How often are we protecting ourselves versus opening up in a relationship? Or that's what we know. That's what we know. I am throwing a guy in here tonight. I love Alex. He's somebody I've known for a really long time. Uber independent guy. Don't need anybody. I've got it. $1 million investor, young and successful. He's from Taiwan. He was brought here at 8 years old, didn't even know our language. And this idea of not trusting anybody, couldn't count on anyone, is so old in his system. His parents didn't tell him he was coming to America. They literally picked him up, brought him to an airplane, very excited, put him on an airplane, and brought him here. And 3 years later, the family went back and they left him here with other people. So his idea of trusting, very low. And what happened in that is that going into a relationship was full of mistrust. I can't count on you. Having someone close to him was way too much of a liability. For an investor, they don't go into liability. They like sure deals. So what has happened is a series of relationships where women I can't get close to you. I don't feel anything. I don't feel your vibe. I can't feel your energy. And that is true. Everything was just really tight around him. So we really had to work through the trusting pillar where he could learn to stay open without losing himself. That intimacy, togetherness wasn't two people who lose themselves. It's two complete people co-creating, co-navigating, collaborating, but he didn't trust in the co because he's never had that. Right? So that's that part for him. How many of us have wanted to stay so independent that we never let someone see our needs? I know that was me, right? So he finally has experienced connection that feels safe for him. It does not mean that when he's not dysregulated or in a threat pattern, Alex goes way back, right? But now he can see it. His wife is really great at the Queen's Code. I don't know if anyone knows that book, right? And they have new language and practices that can bring them back together. So this is where we really start to think about it. If change is going to happen, why does it? Most of us recognize We don't want to go through this again. Friends of ours say, no way, I love you too much. Most of us actually change from pain. It becomes so damn unbearable. Very few times in lives where most of us change from joy. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Al. Right. If I had to be independent, if not, they'd leave me. Yeah. If I showed needs, they'd leave. I mean, that most of us would stay away. So this idea that we're going to change or we're going to change our mindset, it's usually from the pain and the repetition. The pattern just keeps getting in the way, and we know something is there. But that is the pivotal piece here, is that the pain and the cost is too damn high to stay the same. Right? That is often why relationship advice does not work. It's podcasts, because information without any way to embody it or integrate it into our system is information. And we know from learning, you're only going to hold on to 10% of tonight. 5 to 10%. The rest of it's going to go. I don't consider that an insult of me. That's our human brain. We are always taking in 80,000 thoughts an hour or a minute, like something like that. How much are you going to hold here tonight? So learning and listening to podcasts, they do drop seeds. Definitely. I'm a big believer in readers. I think we have more masters available to us for free right now, but we've got to practice it. Integrating it means I've got to take that new piece of information and practice it and practice it. I've got to feel it in my body. I've got to be enlivened by it. And I think that is really why most of it, if I had to use something, is like a little one-dimensional. It's a little one-dimensional in that sense. And so it's okay. And that's why we're here. But there's a big difference between learning something which hits here only, and I will say rewiring, because rewiring is intellectual. It's our nervous system. It's our emotional system. It's our somatic system, our somatic system, I should say, our body. Right? So when we have practices, we are tapping into many other areas. I want you to think about if nothing changes. What is the cost here? Another exhausting relationship, another painful breakup, I could tell you that. More time overthinking, not having your voice, not having your needs met, losing trust, self-abandonment. It's also your cost in your health, your joy, your sense of freedom, your playfulness, your desires. Most of us, if we're cut off from our body, we're not having sexual desires. It's the last thing we want to do often. If we don't feel connected to our partner, we don't feel desirous, we don't feel sexual. So is it worth it if nothing changes in another year? Just think about that, right? And who do you become in your identity if you do choose to rewire? Can you picture yourself staying calm? It's different than passive. It's different than freeze. So for me, I needed to learn how to stay calm and not reactive in conflict, and recognize conflict doesn't mean ending. I've always thought conflict at times meant like I had to argue, get louder, get bigger, because that's what my dad did. No, it means I can be confident in my boundaries. I can state my needs openly. I can return from conflict through repair. I know a way back to myself. I know a way back to my partner. That's what we're talking about. This is, people aren't really buying programs. They want to shift in their self. They want to have a different experience, right? Women don't want to just learn how to communicate better. They want to learn how to be different women in love. And that's what we're really talking about, is having that internal shift, right? And what happens when we start to do that, we call interrupting a pattern. Many ways that you will learn in the alchemy of love, or if you work with me, is how do I interrupt this? I know this, Claudine. I had a hamster wheel on one of the slides earlier. I don't know if anyone noticed it. I could tell you I had hamster wheel relationships, and they all got a little shorter because I kept interrupting the pattern, right? So 13-year marriage came like a 4-year relationship. 2-year relationship till I could learn, like, oh, wait, I've got to show up different and I get to attract differently, right? I had to learn, and I still learn all the time, new ways of regulating myself, finding peace and calm. One of them is being on the mountain. My style of communication. There's a great book, Talk to Me like somebody you love. My partner is not my enemy. I'm not their enemy. My childhood wounds would make me think they are. I'm also not talking about people who assault. So hear me. I see this. I'm feeling something very different. I'm a trauma therapist. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when we're in conflict. I've often said, if I lose, my partner loses. If they lose, I lose. I only want to be in a relationship where both of us are winning. Because if I feel like I won that argument, what did I win? What did I win? This is not the boardroom. This is not me with Governor Christie trying to win a point years ago. I don't want to come home and win with my spouse. And that's what I did. I had to prove my point and validate it with facts. It's not what they wanted to hear. I needed to meet them. So I become different in my communication. I become safer. That's what this work is about, is who do you get to become in this process, right? I want to just have you all think, if nothing changes in the next 12 months, then this is what you have. And I can tell you from the clients I work with, most of them are emotionally exhausted, experiencing relationship frustration. They don't listen to me. He's always, she never. I was talking and they interrupted me. You never listen. These things, oh my God, these are really, right? So noble. I have to check on work emails, but it's not presence. So what it would be another 12 months of no change. Let's say you can't survive it. You've gotten here. I've gotten through years. But I definitely know I don't want the patterns any longer. I want to have something different. Right? So I want to be able to bridge insight, which is this moment of aha that we all have. They're wonderful. They open us up to a new possibility. That is a new wiring, a new insight, self-awareness. Right? We want to take that and practice it, because then that new neuron actually starts to wire and becomes bigger and bigger. So we take awareness, we practice it, we have nervous system shifts. And when we're in a container, that's where transformation starts to happen. That's lasting change. That is what we're really up to here, is having that momentum in our lives so that we can have this. You know, I'm not sure for you, but I'm kind of wondering what would feel more aligned in your future. What is it that you really want in your life? This is all why I created the Alchemy of Love. It is a 6-month coaching container, because we can talk skills, which I do, but we've got to practice them with other human beings. We've got to be in this, right? We're designed to move from insight to transformation through integration. We've got to be able to work with the whole system together. Relationship advice in a book is wonderful. I got to be able to practice it. I got to be able to recognize, trust me, conflict happens in group coaching programs. Everything does, because it's a cosmo of our life. And that's what we give here, right? So yeah, inside Alchemy of Love is coaching, of course, where everyone gets to be in the hot seat, where there is buddies coaching each other when we're not in a class. But for an hour and a half, twice a month, we're going to be in the coaching container together. There's going to be things on the off week. We're going to be practicing nervous system regulation, right? Relationship tools, communication styles, right? I have scripts and videos, but without them, they just become a great idea. When they are practiced, they become embodied. They become part of our filing cabinet. They become at hand or accessible, so to say, right? It's not information. This is a structured rewiring, and that's where I think it is different. We do use the best model, right? Inside that, We do have a community that sets intentions. We do Q&A. We have toolkits for everybody with scripts and guides. There's all that. All that is included in the program. So I also believe in providing, the support system, the daily check-ins, accountability. We often change when we make a commitment outside ourselves. 80 to 90% more of us keep our word to someone else than we do to ourselves. Right? Having that is really important. Right? That's really important. And tonight, these are all important parts, right? The deeper the relationship container I can offer you, the more transformation changes for you. That's what this is really about. Is like when everyone comes together, it is magical to be in the group and watch the sharing in the depths. And, I've been doing this for 30 years. And I do see what community provides. We need a reflection. We need people there, right? So I really want to say that. And brilliant people, bright people, right? We've done the workshops. We've done the listening. We've find ourselves, but our nervous system still lives in a story. We still make up stories because that's what we do. We're meaning-making machines, always making stories up. So I just really be with that. If there's something I can combine with all my years of trauma therapy, somatic and breath work and attachment styles, it's a one place where people get to experience, yes, learn, really embody what these things really mean for them. And we get to rewire, right? So this is a place where you can go deeper. So ask yourself, that is really why the alchemy of love is. So it's a place where we can create insight to embodiment. You'll notice there's a few exclusive offers here on the bottom, right? So for tonight, in 72 hours after tonight, there is some extra pieces I am offering, which is, some coaching sessions, assessment sessions. I'm happy to give anybody that breath work session. That's what I do. Sound healing, however that looks to move you forward. I'm willing to give that much more for your own embodiment experience. Transformation is not going to just occur here, right? We learn intellectually and cognitively, somatically, emotionally, physically, our nervous system. So we want to be able to allow all the parts of your healing to have support in every domain. Right? The value of this, $23,000. I know how many years, I know what I charge, but that's not what it is tonight. For you, it's an investment for $3,500. You stayed here that long. You stayed here to learn, to see, is this different? Is there advice I can get? You may have heard some pieces of advice. You learned is an invitation to open up your nervous system to a new experience, right? This is time limited. I do this for 72 hours after this session tonight where I keep it open. Because I really do. I want to help people experience secure love. So next year is different. It is not, when you're in 2027, you're going to be like, wow, that was a good investment. I can say that. I've been in coaching containers where I am grateful for the shifts that allowed me to get here, physically here, in a different size, different relationship with myself. If you're interested, you can go to this website right now. QR code, I think some things also Hal's put in there, right? But for action, I will throw in a few other things tonight, right? When the breathwork hypnotherapy session, never offered that here before. That's how much I believe in accessing different parts of you. Where we can drop your defenses. You can have an alignment session with me. We could stop repeating the patterns. But I will tell you, there is only 8 seats left in my next cohort. 72 hours for you to take advantage of this. That's what the now is about. What do I want my next year to be? This is the decision you get to make, right? Because and I know there's a cost of hesitating and there's a cost of inaction. So to think that you haven't already been paying prices, when people go financially, there's money being paid when we stay in a pattern. Money used on shopping as a coping mechanism, money used on food as a coping mechanism. I know that one well, by the way, right? The money that we don't make because we don't feel inspired. The time, it costs a lot of time and energy to feel stuck or to stay put and go, I don't want to do that. I don't know about that. I don't know. What is the cost for you, though, of staying there? So there's decision. You get to decide, because there's researchers and there's deciders. I've always used to be a researcher. Love collecting information. I mean, researchers they're thoughtful people. They love to learn. They love information. They love to collect things. Now we can collect them, like, download this for free. Get this for free, right? They're analyzers. And often when you're in analysis, you go into paralysis because you've gathered so much information, you actually don't open up the freebies that you dropped. You may read it, but reading again isn't practicing it in integration. The difference is that there's the deciders. And deciders are people who recognize they need to take action. They recognize they want something different. That's powerful because they step forward. Right? You're stepping in, and that's what deciders do. So who are you going to be tonight? A decider or a researcher? And that's okay. Right? If you want to be a decider, put that in the chat. Give me a call. There's a link for a free call if you want to learn more. But if you're a decider, put decider in the chat tonight. There's still people here. Let's say, does anyone want to be a decider? Is anyone on the fence? Maybe someone needs more research. And if you are someone who needs me research, like I said, book a call. You can follow me. Thank you. Hal put a lot. Oh, Hal, thank you. He's put some links in the chat for my Instagram. Just free call or learn more about the program. That's what this is about you claiming something different. So I celebrate you because actually I do know you, Hal, and you are a decider. You're a man of take great action, either creating coaching programs, going to coaching programs, going to the next level of your breathwork certification. Yeah, you don't stay in researcher mode anymore. You're like, I'm changing my life and others' lives. So I thank you for also being a man of service. So if there is more information you need, I encourage you to reach out. If you're ready to make that decision, I want to celebrate you tonight. If even the decision is, I'm going to follow up and make a call with you. Wonderful. I'd love to have connection calls with people. It's free. Feel free to allow yourself a deeper conversation. Maybe there's something you didn't come off camera and share tonight. That's there. But I do want to thank you because you could have been anywhere tonight on St. Paddy's Day, and a lot of people were because I know how many people were enrolled. But I thank you for spending your time here this evening, for saying there's something I'm willing to learn, there's something I know needs to shift. I appreciate you. I thank you. I see you and I honor you. And if there's anything anyone wants to be that was stirred in them tonight that they want to have a little bit more deeper understanding about, I really do encourage you to reach out. I'm here, a woman of service, 32 years, and I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Claudine.
Thank you, Hal. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, we're gonna now close out the night.